Welcome to the Leadership Upgrade Podcast. I'm Dr. Kevin. In this podcast, we explore what it truly takes to become the kind of leader that people trust, respect, and want to follow. If you're a high achieving entrepreneur or executive and you want to upgrade your leadership from the inside out, this is the place for you. So, welcome. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes where we dive deep into conscious leadership, personal mastery, and building organizations that thrive. And if you want a full blueprint for upgrading your leadership, check out my new book, Lead Yourself First, the High Achiever's Guide to Upgrade Your Leadership. Grab a copy today by visiting upgradeyourleadership.com. Join the movement and upgrade your leadership. Now, let's get down to today's episode. Excited to get into the hearts and minds of the best leaders out there to learn the tips and tricks that will help you sustain organizational excellence. And today we have a great creative mind with us, a business owner and leader in her own right, let alone all the creative endeavors that she has going on. Our guest today is Daphne Minks, and she is the owner and producer of Twisted Reels Production. She has the show, The Dead Air Show, and really a concept creator, a storyteller, and a thought leader. So welcome, Daphne. Excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here. This is going to be a great conversation. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for the warm welcome as well.
Yeah, just glad to have you here. You know, I'm so interested and fascinated. I know our show is about leadership and how we lead and create culture and teams. And ultimately, my philosophy, you have to lead yourself first. But before all of that, I would love to just jump in and have you talk a little bit about what's the latest thing that's lighting a fire in your belly. What's the latest thing you're focused on?
Yeah, so the Dead Air franchise that we created through my production company, Twisted Reels, it's just taking off. It's been so exciting, and we're working with some pretty exciting people in the hip hop community, just some really interesting avenues to do some paranormal TV shows in a way that haven't been done before. And you were talking about, building teams, and that's exactly what Twisted Reels is doing. So the community building, team building, putting it together with a show, with paranormal and artists, and with some crazy stuff going on right now. And I'm very just beside myself with glee and how this project has been turning out. So it's cool. It's exciting.
That's fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I'm super curious. You talk about leading a team and creating a team. It's a little different mindset than doing it yourself. And I would love if you could share a little bit about your leadership journey and your leadership philosophy. Like, what's the biggest lesson you've learned? You've had multiple organizations along the way, business owner extraordinaire. Okay, you're doing great stuff. Talk about leadership. How have you evolved in your leadership and how do you understand it?
How do I understand? That's a really good question. Honestly, I think my background, I have always been a serial entrepreneur. I don't really do well working a job. It's just never really been my thing. And I think the thing that set me on the path to being an entrepreneur was seeing a lot of poverty around me growing up. And I knew that there was very little opportunity in the rural areas of the South that I came from. And I just knew that I had to come up with something to get out of that. So I think that was my foundation, was kind of out of desperation. Maybe that's where the foundation was built. And I knew I could not rely on anyone else but myself. So I think leadership for me started out as I have to have all the answers. I have to show that I'm a strong woman. And by being a strong woman means I'm a little mean and rough around the edges and I can sit at the table with the boys. And I think that journey, owning my own business is several different business. Ones that have failed, ones that have succeeded. I've been on both ends of the spectrum, both ends of wealth and everywhere in between. I think where that led me was to realize the most important thing in business is that you do not work with or for people you do not respect nor enjoy their company. I don't think that being friendly and honest and forthright about resources, who you are, where you've been, what your goals are, I don't think that's a weakness. I don't, being these things should be a confidence builder for your partners if they're the right people, that they know that what you're saying is true. They know that they're not going to find out something 6 months down the line that you didn't disclose financially, personally, whatever that is. Those are the lessons I've learned. To be honest, have integrity, work with people you respect, and build a solid team of people that get you. Get you.
Well,
Admitting you don't have all the answers is sometimes the best answer, I think.
so let me ask you a question. You said something really provocative. You said it's not a weakness to be kind of transparent and to be friendly and to be vulnerable, perhaps. I'll use my own words. But if it's not a weakness, why don't people do it? What kept you from doing it out of the gate?
Really, you know what I think it is? I think that COVID gave us all a comfortability with admitting vulnerability. I think that changed the course of business, that we're like right now. This morning, I had meeting after meeting after meeting. I'm being forthcoming with your listeners and viewers. I thought this was an audio call. Quite frankly, I messed up. And I decided I'm going to show up in my ponytail and hoodie, and I'm going to have the best conversation possible. Before COVID, we probably would have rescheduled because I didn't have, myself business professional ready. And I think that the fact that we have a global economy now, we have more opportunities to connect with people in a way we never did before via the internet, which is relatively new in, human history. The internet's kind of new. And then you bring COVID into it, where most of us were doing meetings without our pants. I think it brought things to a human level. We were all joking about it on social networking when the camera falls. And, it really became that way where we're more accepting, I think, that founders are people. CEOs are people. We have children running around and pets, and cats are going to walk across the camera. And I think it really leveled kind of the playing field in a way where we're able to connect with people on a more interpersonal way, and it helps with that transparency and authenticity and leadership.
Well, I like what you're saying. I'm still I scratch my head a little bit. I work with so many leaders who, and you're saying it's not a weakness, but so many leaders cling to the stoicism and cling to what do they say? Information is power, or it's need to know basis only, in a way that hurts them, but they don't see it. And they just wonder, what is it that keeps people from stepping into vulnerability? I mean, you found it on your path, but so many people don't. What do you think the obstacle is there?
I think I had an experience with a business I used to own. I got a lot of bad press over something, really bad press. And it hit me hard. It really did. And it sort of was like, how much of myself do I open to the world, and how much do I keep closed? And I think it's kind of like boundaries. We all have to learn whether we have too rigid boundaries or they like rubber guardrail, they're bendable. And I think in business, we do that. We're not sure how much is going to make us look unprofessional and how much isn't. Because believe you me, there is a line. I'm not saying we should all show up eating our cookies and, not unshaved, whatever. I'm not saying that. We should just all be whatever. Professionalism and vulnerability, I don't think compete. They don't have to compete. But I do think that some of the more rigid, stoic leaders, maybe that's what the issue is how much do you disclose? How much is too much? We're still kind of figuring that out a little bit, as I am. I mean, I'm on a reality show now. How much of my finances, I'm looking for money right now, quite frankly, I'm looking for investors. So on my show, how much of that am I comfortable disclosing? It's a fine line. And I think that's maybe the uncomfortability that some leaders feel, is maybe there's too much, that it's going to result in bad press or, something.
Yeah. Well, and I know in your pathway too, there was a point at which your industriousness, Your roll up the
Mhm.
sleeves, hard work, get her done wasn't serving you the way you
Yeah.
needed it to.
Mhm.
Talk about that transition. How did you learn? First of all, where'd you gain that programming that said work hard? And how did you learn that hard work wasn't necessarily the thing that was going to get you where you wanted to go?
Great question. I think it goes back to, like I said, kind of where I grew up. It's some very rural areas, and it is very much that way. You just keep your head down and you work. And, I took that ideology into business, and I sort of started finding it wasn't serving me because I was expecting myself to have all the answers and be the smartest person in the room.
Mm,
And then when I wasn't, self-defeat, imposter syndrome. This is, I should be
mhm,
here. I have no business in these rooms. And I think it was really recognizing I need other people. I need, as if you have a vision and you're a visionary, that you don't necessarily, you're an artist of sorts, you're an Imagineer, if you will. You need other people because you have a creative brain that has 75 billion other things going on in it and 15 future projects that, already, and spin-offs. And, we're founders. We're seeing, that's what we do. We're leaders, we're thought
mhm.
leaders. We think big ideas. That doesn't translate to executing well. Not every time. And during my journey, I failed miserably, 3 businesses in a row, and it was hard, very hard. And I sort of, for the 15th time, pulled myself up by my bootstraps and said, let me figure out what I'm not getting. And I joined LinkedIn. That was really, I think, the first, and that was a long time ago.
Mhm.
LinkedIn wasn't kind of the monster that it is now, but it changed my world because it put me into rooms where I could get mentors. I could understand the questions that I didn't even know I needed to ask. I didn't know what I didn't know because I didn't know. And I think that opened the door. I started getting the respect of my peers as a business owner because I was starting to understand the questions that I needed to ask and who I needed to pose them to. And that just kind of started me on a trajectory of team building. That's where I went, I think, from a business owner to a founder to a visionary who builds teams. It was sort of a
Mhm.
sort of a layered onion of, oh, gotcha. But truly, it really wasn't until I opened High Stakes University, the business that I still own, but before Twisted Reels, um, it really, it's a it's UAV, drone security we do government projects and, military bases and lots of different types of training. That's really where that became more clear to me is probably within the last, I would say, 10 to 12 years. It's been fairly recent of an awakening, but
Mhm.
we have to build team. Got it. Like that was with the eye opening moment, the aha moment was during that
Oh, that's
business. So yeah,
fantastic, right?
there you go.
Yeah, swinging back, right? This is the leadership upgrade. And so I love it. We're getting to the heart and soul of that leadership upgrade that you went through. Now, that your pathway required or didn't require it, but the reality of it was business failing and imposter
Yes.
syndrome,
Hmm.
self-doubt, I'm sure anxiety, guilt,
Oh,
shame, all of it that so
all
many
of
of
the
us
good
have
stuff.
experienced.
Yes.
So what you offer that might help? Do we have to bottom out to get there? Or is there a
I
way to move forward
Oh, go
without
ahead. I'm sorry.
having to go into our own angst? Like what did you learn out of that you can offer that might help another business owner not have to go through 3 failed business and stay too long in that imposter syndrome? We all face it, but how do you get out of that quickly and own your gift?
Really, I don't think you have to bottom out because some of us have already done it for you. And I mean, truly listen to the failures. Truly, because I mean, that listen to the failure stories, listen to more so than the success stories. I think it
Mhm.
starts with that is looking to people that haven't done it the right way and maybe haven't even succeeded, because you can look and say, I don't want to make those mistakes. Take that information. You look at people that failed and then succeeded. What are the differences between those two stories? what makes this person different with that? Find mentors. That's a big one. You don't need to fail to learn the lesson. Get into groups, on LinkedIn or places like Alignable, or, your Facebook groups, or, people that are already respected leaders. Get involved in those comments. Everybody's got something to teach you, good, bad, or indifferent. The no's are just as important as the yeses. All of those little catchphrases, they're all true. So I think that it's really leaning into other thought leaders, leaning into paying attention to what your peers are doing correctly and not doing correctly, and that's not to judge anybody and say, oh, this person's stupid. It's just a lesson. It's a nugget of information for you to take with you on your way. And I think if you collect those nuggets in a little knapsack, you're bound for success. You don't have to fail. Yeah, you don't.
Well, and it's interesting. There's a distinction between failing and being a failure. And failing is, when I think about, the story of Thomas Edison, he failed. He wasn't a failure. That was part of the exploration process. Getting it wrong doesn't mean you're not good. As a human, at a core level, you're intrinsically good. The thing you didn't work good. Then you learn. If you learn from it, it's not a failure.
Exactly. It's like WD-40. The reason it's called WD-40 is because they failed 39 other times. Truly, I love that. I read that once, true or not, who knows? I still love the adage and I use it every day. It's like, okay, well, I'm just, I learned for the 700th time that doesn't work, Like maybe 701 it will, but you do have to continue that learning process. Absolutely. But I cannot agree with you more. Failing at something does not equal you are a failure. It's that this particular formula didn't work. Let's come up with something new. Yeah.
Well, for me, it starts with the premise of, a couple of key skill sets that I teach. First of all, be present. Learn how to be present. Secondly, be aware. And then with awareness, you can start to recognize the patterns that you've adopted. And I wonder, as you build teams, how do you manage the personalities? And how do you manage them? How do you determine who to bring in? Is it purely on the skill set? Is it a gut feeling? Is it an emotional feeling? How do you know who's going to be a fit? I've seen too many times where individuals are brought on a team because of their great resume and the way they show up for the first date, which is the interview, even at an executive level. And over 3 months, it becomes very clear the person's a disaster. And they might have done all the right things, have the right pedigree, but they're not a fit for the team.
Yes.
How have you worked through that?
Yes, it's funny. I'm actually only directly over about maybe 6 different people, but the people that I have put into position, they oversee, the drone pilots, the security teams. I don't have anything to do with that. And here's the answer to your question. Why? Because I like everybody. And you were talking about what are some challenges, what are some problems I face. That's the problem. I'm not the person to conduct the interviews, doing that, because I like everybody and I really want to help people succeed. So as a business owner, I've put people in place that are HR professionals that do understand the right questions to ask. So I think it's, again, building a team. Really, it's kind of goes right back to that. How do you pick the right personalities? You hire someone that knows how to pick that's
Right.
Really,
Nice.
because I would hire everybody if I could. As a visionary, a founder, you want to see that good in everybody, and I see what you're doing, and you're showing up, and that's great. We're cheerleaders. That's what we do. That may not be the best person to be your hiring.
Have you had an experience early on? I'm curious. Early on, did you ever like somebody and hire them and it was just a train wreck?
That is more times than not. It's more of one of the pick an incident, any incident, Yes, I've hired lots of people, lots of young people, a relative of mine, which I do not recommend for any business owner. It was very difficult to let that person go, even though what I found myself doing was their work and mine. And so I'm trying to run, this massive organization and doing the job of someone who's making, I didn't have time. We'll just put it that way. I just really didn't have
Mhm.
time. And it gets into that. It's an uncomfortable thing and you have to let somebody go. And so I just say avoid the whole nightmare in and of itself. It happens all the time with security individuals, with the high stakes university, the other business I own. I'm just not good at it. And I've had too many incidences of that. So yes, I say hire people that are better at it than you.
It's just brilliant advice. I'm curious how you then, in doing that, how do you determine what needs to be on your plate as the founder? How do you create that line to make that shift, right? From being able to be a good producer, that's what got you started. You were good at doing the task, but then as soon as it became a business, you couldn't do the task. You had to oversee the systems. I'm just curious how you determine what needs to be on your plate and what doesn't, what needs to be delegated.
To be really frank with you, I still deal with that. And I think that's one of the hardest things about being an entrepreneur, owning your own business, whether it's a small business or a larger scale business. Um, that's always going to be the struggle, I think, is knowing your lane. Because, not so much as a micromanager, but you want to know every facet of the business. You want to get involved as much as you can. So I think, again, it goes right back to what we've been talking about with team building, getting those right people around you that can say, Daphne, you seem extremely stressed out today. And I see your schedule. You got 8 meetings today. You get a 5-minute lunch and maybe get to go potty twice. Maybe you need someone in your circle to say, let me delegate this off to somebody else. This does not need to be on your plate. I think that's really the answer is, again, having good people around you that see you, feel you, and your word present. They are present. They're seeing you tired. They're seeing you as a founder not your best. I have a real problem when I'm tired. I don't speak very well and I can't articulate myself. My business partner is great at recognizing, why don't I take this meeting for you? You go take a nap, rest up. That way you're good for your next meeting and can shine rather than dragging in, and that magic isn't there maybe as much as it could be. And so I think really solidifying your fort, insulating yourself to some degree with the right people who can recognize exhaustion or triggers or just maybe something else that could simply be delegated to make your life a little bit easier that day.
Isn't it powerful how much community matters in
It
building
does.
a community and recognizing that a team, you call it a group, you call it a team, really the best team is a community of people who
Yes.
are aligned and moving the same direction together in a way they have each other's back. In a community, yeah, it doesn't mean there's not conflict sometimes, but man, they know how to talk through it, get out of their own way, get over their ego. Everybody's pulling the same direction. When you have that, it allows you to shine bright, right? Isn't that fantastic? I love that. I just love the image in my head of you, the kind of before and after, when you're working with your sleeves rolled up and brilliantly getting stuff done, and how much that person would not be effective in your role today.
Absolutely. It's been a journey. You're a spot on.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
The growth, anything as we start to wind up here, I'm just curious if you could offer any perspectives on, well, I go back to the thing the thing that sticks with me is our own ghost. Like
Yeah.
how do you let go of that? How do you overcome that self-limiting belief, that self-doubt, the imposter syndrome? Is there any trick for you that helped you rewire that neural circuitry so you weren't haunted by your own self-doubt?
Absolutely. And I tell you, it was really a realization. It kind of goes back to the vulnerability thing. It's a realization that every iteration of myself has brought me to where I am. And it really seems very simple, but I think as a business owner, appreciating every step along the way made me smarter, stronger, more understanding, more humble. With more success, I've become more humble. And I think that's an important takeaway, is that I know what I don't know. And I say that all the time. I respect what I don't know. And it's helped me to be easier on that ghost, to say, I understand you didn't know, girl. Like, it's all right, like really. And I
it's
can
so
let myself off
profound.
the hook.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so profound because earlier on, as entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to know. And that's some of, I think, the programming in us is we're good at being right. We're good at having the answers. Good at being the hardest worker in the room. And that's the secret to our success. And if we only stay in that lane, it becomes our doom. It becomes our Achilles heel. But we have to let go. And we have to let go of that ego and our self-concept and our identity. And in doing that, I think it's so brilliant to admit that you don't know. For me, it was, I framed it as learning to be the fool. I'm the
Yes, that's
fool.
a
I don't
great
have
way
all
to
the
put
answers.
it.
Just
Yes.
don't try to be Joe Cool. Don't have everything together. That's all right. Sometimes I'm ragged around the edges. Sometimes you show up to a podcast and you have your hoodie on. Okay, guess what? That's all right. Because here we
Exactly
are
right.
on this journey, and it is fantastic. Now, let me ask this: if folks, you have such a fascinating story, we didn't even really step into all of the work you're doing, which is fascinating. People want to learn more about the work you're doing. How would they connect with you? Where do they go? How do we find out more?
Yeah, so you can learn about my company, Twisted Reels Productions, at www.twistedreelsproductions.com. You can go over and check us out on YouTube, same Twisted Reels Productions. About me personally, if you want to check out episode 3 of our show, Dead Air Energies, there's a fairly decent amount of that episode dedicated to showing kind of who I am and what my journey has looked like. Again, highstakesuniversity.org. That's another business that I do own. If you need any sort of UAV security drone training, we can help you out there. Social handles, Daphne is Twisted, The Real Vortex 29. So I think that covers it for today. Yes.
Twisted Reels production. I know that we could go for hours just talking about
Yes.
that twisted element deep in the personality of the person who is Daphne Minks. But
Thank you.
that's not today's episode. That's an episode down the road. You
Yes.
have a deep curiosity that I would love listeners to jump in and check it out. Twisted Reels Productions and Dead Air Energies. Find out more and thanks today for taking the time. Just
Thank
talk
you.
about your honest, open, vulnerable perspective on leadership. And obviously, it would seem to be in the time we've known each other, the people who get to share your community are lucky to have you.
Thank
For the work you've
you.
done, it's obvious you've done the work on yourself to become the great leader and the great entrepreneur that you are. So thank you for that, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you. I would like to say, if any of your listeners have any questions or anything about leadership or need some, advice or whatever, I'm always there, Daphne at twistedreelsproductions.com. So thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care now. Be well. Hey, thanks for joining us on today's Leadership Upgrade podcast. Now, if you want to continue to challenge your ideas about leadership while increasing your influence, make sure to subscribe to the channel and share this episode with someone you know who wants to become a more inspired executive. If you're ready to take the next major step in upgrading your leadership, don't forget to grab a copy of Lead Yourself First, the High Achiever's Guide to Upgrade Your Leadership, available now. Just go to Upgrade Your Leadership now to secure your copy of the book, and we have additional resources available for those who are truly committed to becoming better. So download the workbook, get the book, and put yourself on a path to become the best version of yourself as a leader. Remember, before you can truly lead others, you must first learn to lead yourself. See you on the next episode. For now, this is Dr. Kevin wishing you well.